Well, there's really not anything for us to talk about. We're going to work both players like we have. They get equal reps each week and see how it goes. And then we just started looking at Iowa State. You know, we've looked at 3 or 4 games and come up with a game plan here in the next 24 hours and try to work it into our quarterback play that we think gives us the best chance to win.
They've been getting equal reps all season?
Yes. Yeah, even from the spring, we had a third guy, and they were getting – it was into 3s, and then it's into 2s, and there won't be – you know, one of them one day may get 60, the other 40, just based on what plays we're running, but otherwise very equal.
Is that different than in the past?
Yeah, it's been different every year. When I was coaching quarterbacks here and we had Josh, and we really didn't have a backup, Josh got 95% of the reps. The other guy got a few, and the third guy didn't get any work at all. But the system we're in now that we've been in for a number of years, quarterbacks get a lot of work. It's considerably different, and a lot of it based on the tempo and the way we practice. Not as many running schemes as what we used to have years ago.
Can you take us through the decision process of why you made the switch and when?
Just kind of a gut feeling, and not really anything any different than just felt like we kind of needed a change at that time.
I assume you and Mike Yersich conversed throughout the game on a decision like that. Who's the first one that suggested we might need to make a switch?
Well, I mean, you know, there's some things we would never want to talk about. One is evaluating players publicly. We wouldn't do it. Another was decisions that we make during a game as a coaching staff. I'm not comfortable in talking about.
What's the advantage, or let's say the disadvantage for Iowa State, sitting up their names right now, not knowing what you're going to do at quarterback? What does that put? What kind of a disadvantage does that put them at?
Shouldn't be any. We run the same plays.
So you do different things with the core. I mean, JW can run more. I don't know if he would, but he can run better and more. Quint can throw deeper on a more consistent basis, it looks like. Is that, do they have to change their defense?
I mean, I'm not a defensive guy, but I don't think there's any advantage in Iowa State knowing who's going to play quarterback for us. Our philosophies don't change. They're fairly simple. I mean, they may have more of a scramble thought with JW than they would with Chelf, but for the most part, the concept's the same. It's not like having a wildcat quarterback and then having a pocket passer.
Mike, last night you complimented both kids on how they've handled the situation throughout because of that and the way they do handle it. I know no coach really wants a 2-quarterback system. Can you kind of go into each game and say, let's find who's got the hot hand and ride it?
Well, I think that you just have to see how it goes. I don't know that we really can predict how it will transpire from this point forward, and we're very open and honest with both of them, and I think that benefits our team. It's never a perfect situation. We just kind of continue to move forward, and we're fortunate that they're good people. You know, they're both good quality kids.
Have you made the decision on who you want to start Saturday and you just don't want to say? Or is that a decision you're going to make during the week? And when you do, will you even tell them, or will you wait till you get to Iowa?
No, we won't share. Certainly wouldn't share it publicly, but we would like to have a decision made by Thursday. And we'll look at and see where we're at and how things go in practice this week.
Will you share it with the quarterbacks?
We're not sure. You know, there's some things that we talk about with quarterbacks and coaches that we don't want to share publicly. You know, it's like the things that my wife, you know, she rides me all the time about. I don't share that publicly either, you know. I want people to know that she rules the roost.
Tailback, is Rennie going to be, are we going to see him earlier and more than we did Saturday after the way he played?
Oh, I think we'll see him earlier. How much more will depend on how it goes at the running back situation.
Coach, you had a chance to look at the TCU game film. TCU, were they as good last Saturday on defense as you thought they were going to be? Talk a little bit about how the Cowboys played.
Well, I think TCU is a good defensive football team, and I think that we played in their favor by turning the football over. You know, we had 2 interceptions when our quarterbacks got hit when they were throwing the ball, and then we fumbled the ball and dropped it to them and threw one into them in the end zone. And so that certainly helps them. But I don't think you can take away from what they've been able to accomplish on defense. You just look at the history of them on defense in this league, and they've been fairly successful each week.
When you're halfway through the season and you look over your offense and they're making some of the same mistakes that they might have made in week 1 or week 2, is that difficult? Is that challenging for you as a coach, because you know your philosophy and you know your teaching, and either guys are just not getting it, or you're giving them too much, or you're not giving them enough? How do you evaluate that? How do you assess that philosophically?
Well, we have different personnel than we have here the last 3 or 4 years. I think that's the first thing that would be the best answer for that question. And the plays haven't changed. It's the same thing that we've done. And we have to get better at those plays with the people that we have trying to execute them.
Is it that some? I mean, it's not too much to say that some people get things faster than others, whether it's mathematics or football, right? I mean, is that what you're dealing with a little bit? Is that some guys can get it?
Not really. It's just we have different personnel than what we had. You know, each year you have a grouping of personnel, and your team's going to be a little different unless you have a majority of returning starters. And so we have different players in there than we've had, and you know, for that reason, it hadn't looked as good as what it has over the last few years.
So you as a coach, then, I'm assuming, would adjust your own coaching style to suit the players that you have.
You got to stay with what you have to, we believe you have to stay with what you're doing. There's way too much in order for players to comprehend a change during the season. You get 2 days for preparation, and it's, in my opinion, is almost unheard of to try to change what your philosophy is on one side of the ball during the middle of the season.
Mike, I know when you look at tape, Mike, you're not looking at the TV copy, you're looking at the coach's tape. Charles Davis from Fox the other day on the punt return gave Stewart credit almost entirely when he watched it live. Came back and diagrammed and saw all the blocks. Talk about the execution on a play like that, and you know what your thoughts are when you see it done as well as that one was.
Well, that was as good and as well executed play. We had 9 guys on 9 guys, and one guy missed his block, and Stewart made him miss, and then that guy recovered and got him, and they followed him all the way down the field. Obviously, it's a great return, and in punt returning, it's about getting started. And if you have a talented returner, it can make the first guy miss. In most cases, that has to happen. Very seldom you're going to block 10 guys. But we had 9 guys blocked. It was very well executed.
Were you pleased with, since you made this shift on the offensive line, did you think they got better as the game went along, or what did you see?
Yeah, they got a little bit better as the game went on. It's still playing very average. You know, I'm looking forward to getting settled in on a group and them adjusting and working together. We went a number of years here and had 5 guys playing together throughout the season. One guy would get hurt, like a couple years ago. We were playing at A&M and we lost, I think, the center, and rush or somebody, and put another guy in. And then those 5 guys played the rest of the year, you know, until the end. And continuity is really important to the offensive line, and we haven't had that up to this point. But they'll improve and get better as we start to kind of get a grasp of the same 5 guys playing the same position and practicing.
Is it wrong to say or suggest that the mistakes that you're making offensively up front, quarterback, every position, are some of the same that we saw in week 1 or week 2? Is it the same things happening?
No.
It's not the same.
Not even close. I wish I could say that.
So talk about the growth then of what maybe you've seen, mistakes that guys made early that they're not making now, and you've seen some growth.
Well, we've improved in certain areas, and we have other guys playing different positions that are making some of the mistakes, but it's not the mistakes those guys made playing the same position in week 2. I mean, I'm just trying to give you the best answer. You know, it's really hard to answer, but we had a new guy playing guard that hadn't played guard, and he made a few mistakes inside. And then we had a new guy playing tackle that's never played college football, and he made some mistakes. And there was times their defense made plays. You know, times that they beat us. So it was kind of a combination of all of that.
What's the best thing Clint did Saturday? What's the best part of his game against TCU?
Well, I think he managed the game and his composure was good. He distributed the ball at times as we asked him to, and made some throws. You know, he missed a couple throws. There was a couple throws that looked very bad. That, in my opinion, there was could be a discrepancy on whether guys were getting to run a route or being pulled the other direction. And, you know, on tape we see that, and at times people sitting in the stands don't see that, and they wonder what's going on. So overall, I think he just managed the game and distributed the ball pretty good. His composure was good.
Last year you lost your left tackle and you covered it up pretty well. Has this been a much bigger challenge when you lost Devin Davis? Has that been a big part of what's been going on?
Yeah, what happened early, I mentioned this several times, is we lost Koning for over 20 days, and we lost Devin Davis, so now we lost 2 of them. So you start trying to mix and match. That's only natural. And if you look back at it, would you have just said, okay, we're going to leave everybody where we are, and we're going to put a guy here that's never played the game before and go play Mississippi State? Or do you try to put a guy over there when you're playing an SEC team to start the season to try to make it work, and you move 3 people around? That was the problem.
You probably made the right decision. I mean,
well, we beat Mississippi State, but we've played musical chairs. You know, I'm not. You guys brought it up. I'm not bringing it up. We got to get better. But we've played musical chairs at a position that needs communication and has not traditionally played musical chairs here, and that's affected us in the long run. If we would have played a different opponent in the first game, would have just left the other guy over there and just rolled with it for as many weeks as we needed to do to get it better. But we didn't have that opportunity in the first game, so we had to move everybody around.
Have you talked to the team about the double overtime loss at Ames 2 years ago? Or will you talk to them about that? Is that going to be brought up this week?
No. You know, there's nothing. There's not any carryover there in those situations. Players, they want to know what affects them now from this point moving forward. And, you know, I don't think – I mean, coaches, they think about that forever. But I don't think players really think much about that.
There's carryover for you?
Well, there's carryover for me from every game that we ever lose, because I always go back and look and think of what I could have done better as a staff to make us win that football game. But I don't think players really think much about that. Maybe some of them.
With that said, what do you think it's going to be like when you walk back in the stadium since that day?
What do you mean?
Just the emotions that you're going to feel.
Well, I mean, I don't. It doesn't affect me that way. It affects me from a philosophical standpoint. It doesn't really bother me emotionally. That's football. You know, it's life. That's the way things are. Unfortunately, things don't always go the way we want them to. So it doesn't really affect me. My concern is getting our guys up, getting them out of bed, getting them to that stadium, getting them started early in the game, and eliminating some of the mistakes that we made in this last game to give ourselves the best chance to win the game.
Is this a group, Mike, that you have concerns that you might need to address with them? They see Baylor score 71 and think it might be easier than it probably will be to be able to score them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Baylor is you know, obviously further ahead than everybody else is offensively right now, and I don't think they'll consider themselves at this point in the season in that situation.
Mentioning Rennie, can you just talk about his progression and to the point where you felt comfortable putting him in?
He's done better the last 3 weeks and has made some strides. There's other things involved in playing running back than just running the ball. And he's done fairly well in those areas over the last few weeks. We were leaning toward getting him in some against Kansas State, and then the truth is as a position coach, it's hard to really put a guy in that's never played in a game, in a key moment, in a close game, in case he makes a big mistake and something happens. It's almost I told myself, why did I do this? And that's what happens with young players.
Is it fair to look at your defense and the older players and leadership on that side of the ball and almost say it's very close to what you had the last several years on the offensive side?
Oh, I think we've got leadership. We've got leadership on offense. It's just the personnel and the way it's set up is different. It didn't all fall into place for us. And defensively, I think that their approach and their attitude as they've come together, and for the most part, they've stayed fairly healthy on that side of the ball, which has really helped them. And they've had success, and I think it's kind of leading into continued success with them. And I think they're better than what we've had. The skill set and the players that are playing there are better than the players as a group that we've had there over the last few years. Ultimately, that makes more sense than any other issues that you have playing the game of football or any other sport.
Coach, is there any update on the status of Kip Smith?
Well, I don't ever talk about injuries.
You don't have a kicker like Quinn Sharp this year, but does it change the kicking game and the special teams game at all if Kip Smith isn't able to play?
No. Same concepts.
There's been a lot of complaints, I guess, from the fan base. And you've talked about we don't have the same players, but I would think that nobody's more of a stickler for perfection than the coaching staff. But you look back on it, is there ever anything wrong with winning ugly? I know there's execution and you'd like to be perfect and all that, but when you win, does it take care of all that and you just got to calm down? Or?
Well, the first thing is I don't have any concerns about the fan base. I mean, I have concerns about our guys, and ultimately we would love to win and win by 70. That'd be cool, but it doesn't always work that way. We've lost some games around here, 51-49, and everybody may have had a good time, but I didn't think it was very fun because ultimately we lost. We're a different team than what we were last year, and we'll probably be a different team next year. But the point is that we have to continue to move forward, and you're playing in a time and age of college football where there's tremendous parity all across the country, and then especially in this league, and you're going to see these games every week, and it's never going to go away. It's going to be this way forever. You
don't rein in your own expectations.
The domination of having 15, 20, 25 teams that just dominate, and a unranked team now who can beat a team that's 5th or 6th in the country, you're seeing it every week. A team that last week beat a team that was 5th or 6th or 7th in the country and goes on the road and loses to a team that's got a 500 record. Those days are here forever. And so it'll make it interesting. It's great for the fans, great for the media, stinks for the coaches. And it's here to stay. It just depends on the maturity you have at certain key positions and how healthy you stay. Some teams are very vulnerable to injury, some teams aren't. It's to a certain extent kind of a luck of the draw. As coaches, for us, we certainly can't cancel practice tomorrow. We've got a number of mistakes and areas that we need to correct in all 3 phases, and we're working hard to do that as we continue to try to find ways to win the game. So our approach is a little different. I mean, we think differently when we're in the offense. We think differently in the kicking game. We think differently now the way our defense is playing. Hopefully they can continue to play well. But we think differently based on who we are as a football team.
You think differently as a coaching staff, you're saying?
I do.
I thought you said earlier something along the lines of you can't change.
You were talking about plays. You were talking about X's and O's. Schemes.
Philosophies.
When to punt, when to go for 4th down, when to kick a field goal, when to play slow, when to play fast based on who we are. Not schemes.
Don't change the schemes. Don't change.
I don't think you can. That's just my opinion.
So what do you change then? Not following where?
Well, if I'm playing with the Ravens defense when they won the Super Bowl, I'm playing real conservative on offense, and I'm okay with punting a lot because I know I'm going to win the game on defense. If I'm playing with what would be the guy at New England that's hot or Peyton Manning that's hot, I can play a little bit different on offense because I know the guy that's controlling it's got control of the game, and so I can take more chances. That's more of what I'm talking about, not scheme-wise.
Coach, are you any more involved with play calling this year than you have been in the past 3 years?
Coach, in terms of the personnel adjustments over the course of this year, where would you say this ranks in terms of challenge to previous years you've had where you've had to make some sort of mid-season adjustments?
Well, we haven't really had to make many mid-season adjustments except at the quarterback position. We were, like for us last year, we were lost Tracy Moore, but for the most part our back stayed the same, our offensive line stayed the same, so we were consistent. 2-3 years ago we lost 1 lineman, those 5 guys stayed consistent, our quarterback stayed the same. We've had to make a few more adjustments, and we've been healthy on defense this year. We've had some issues over the last few years. We've had some guys hurt on defense. So we've been fortunate to be healthy on that side of the ball and kind of stay consistent. But it's never easy when you're trying to make adjustments and put players in that don't have experience playing because you want to be aggressive, but you don't want to be too aggressive because you don't want to put them in a position that they may not be able to handle. And then you have to take in all the outside considerations, everything else involved. You're playing home, you're playing on the road, how good's the other team's offense, how good's their kicking game. There's so many variables involved. There's just a lot of thought that has to go into it. Try to do the best we can to give our kids the best chance to win on Saturday.
You made a lot of quarterback switches last year, all injury-based.
Mm-hmm.
But does that make your veterans sort of immune to quarterback change this season if you do it for other reasons? In other words, they played with a lot of different guys last year. And
I don't know. The quarterback position is tough when you make changes. One, because it draws so much attention, like what's happening right now. And two, you have one guy playing for the most part, unless you have a drop back passer and a wildcat quarterback, and they all want to play. Chelf wants to play. JW wanted to play. Lunt wanted to play. And, there was a time late in the year last year that we had them all healthy. And so we were put in the predicament that we are now. And I don't think that it's ever easy. I think that the advantage we have is we have quality people there, and we have a supportive team that rallies around both of them. That's the one advantage we have at this time.
Along those same lines, I think outside of Baylor, every team in the Big 12 has played multiple quarterbacks. Is that just coincidence, you think, or is that the next wave of the future?
Honestly, I would have to think about it. I don't know. OU's quarterback got hurt. Iowa State's quarterback got hurt, right? Kansas State's been rotating them through. West Virginia, I guess, rotated them through. Tech had a guy get hurt, right? That's 5. Us is 6. We were 6. Who else plays? Texas got hurt. Who else? Baylor doesn't have to.
TCU, Bayhall got hurt.
Yeah, so, it's either injury or somebody felt like they needed to make a change. Good?